Saludos a todos y bienvenidos to the PGP podcast, ready to rock and roll and get you being part of this awesome conversation that we have with another fabulous show, nonstop, 42 plus today, 43 shows of A++ individuals, team members that are from cafeteria workers, bus drivers, retired educators, national speakers, all of that here because we want you to get this as part of Free PD. Hey, Josh Tovar, Pro Principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland, AZ, Garland, USA, ready to rock and roll with that lady right there. Did you already eat your ostrich eggs? Did you already, if you all don't know, that lady right there just came back from Africa, and she's going to go back again to Africa. So tell us, tell us, now that you've reflected, and then you went to Turkey.
Josh, thank you again. Oh my God. You know what? I took my trenzas off. They're off. I'm done. I'm back to normal again. But it was amazing, Josh. I had a great time. And as you mentioned, I'll be going back in July again to Tanzania. And I can't wait. I think this time, Josh, I'm going to Mozambique. Apparently, we have a lot of students in Texas from Mozambique. And I got a lot of questions about, what's going on and what's the culture and what do they eat. And so I think I'm going to make a little pit stop there in Mozambique when I come back in July. So yeah, I'm super excited. I have so many stories to tell. So please follow me on social media as I'm posting all these great pictures and just showcasing everything I've done.
So if you're interested, joining the trip, getting on board, getting on a safari, having giraffes lick your ears or whatever. I don't know what happens, but just having that going on, reach out to this lady, beautiful woman, helps out educators, but most importantly, spreads the love of this awesome profession that we have. And you know what? That's part of my Chinchilagua moment right now before we get started, because we have tons of A++ stars today. Want to give them the floor. You know what? My Chinchilagua moment is like, Katie's like, Chinchilagua? How do you eat that? What do you serve that on the side? Feels like Chinchilagua. I just know Casimir Pulaski. I don't know what's going on. All right. Well, Chinchilagua is a game played by Mexicans. I don't know about any other. George, I don't know if it's Puerto Ricanos play it. I don't know if El Salvadoreños play it. But Mexicans, they all line up. And they yell, Chinchilagua y arriba boy. And they play a fun game. And it's all that fun and games. It's all fun and games until someone gets hurt. Till your little cousin falls off your older cousin's back and cracks his head open. And then the chancla comes out, the coat hanger comes out, and there's beatings going all over. All right, hey, look, my Chinchilagua moment is this today. We are in the best profession out there. We're in public education, the profession that creates all the other professions. And the purpose of the Happy Show is to make sure that we remind everybody how beautiful this profession is. You know what? One of my friends, normally I'm sporting my colors like George is wearing the colors, but a team member went to my alma mater and he's coaching there, and he sent me my alumni shirt there from Burgess High School in El Paso. So, hey, you make those connections with team members, all right? Not only that, but the little intro during our second promo of all our PGP podcasts, there's a guitar solo played. And it's part of the scroll. You know who did that for me? One of my former students, class of 08, Rick Carizal, who's a musician in Houston, in H-Town. H-Town. And he created that. I reached out to him. He said, hey, I'm doing a podcast. I don't want YouTube to block me. Can you make something for me? He did. It's about all those, that's just not even the tip of the iceberg. Mari and I could tell you all the connections that we have. But this is the Chinchilagua moment. There is frustration, no doubt. If you're an English teacher teaching English for seniors and you have to read all those essays right now before state testing, Lord, and your classroom is 170 kids, that's a lot, guys. That is. If you're in the middle, our beautiful home we're all EB students. The rest of you call them EL. The rest of you call them LEP. I don't know. Our alphabet has changed a lot. It's hard to teach A squared plus B squared equals C squared to 5 different languages, let alone the different academic levels in your classroom from native speakers. So this is not an easy profession, and this is when clashes start. So my Chinchilagua moment is there. Don't forget the beautiful thing that is your profession. Don't spill it out on social media. You know that there is a lack of appropriately trained team members going into the classroom. I'm still looking for a PE teacher. Look at what month it is. I'm looking for a PE teacher. So I'm letting you know, let's not shoot ourselves in the foot by putting out all the toxicity out there. If you're somebody in industry and you want to come in and you read all this stuff on Facebook, why would you want to go there? You probably, that's what you left in industry. And you know, why would you want to go there when you don't see the beautiful that is the pop? Hey, George, you know what I'm talking about, right? The pop? The pop. When your favorite wrestler comes out and his song plays, pop. When you're about to listen to Metallica and the whole stadium goes dark and you hear Enter Sandman, pop. That is teaching a kid the first time and their eyes go, oh, that is the magic that you create. Don't put that garbage out there on social media that shoots everybody in the foot. What do you think, Dr. Moreno?
Josh, I'm so glad. This is a great time to talk about that because it is March and everybody is looking at that spring break and it's like, oh my God, when is it going to get here? And they take things personal. Oh my God, don't take things personal. So I'm super glad. I tell people all the time, you know what? Take some time for yourself. You need to recharge. Do something fun. Go out and watch a movie. Do something. I remember as a principal, it's hard even on principals, you know, making sure that you are managing the whole school and everything else is going on. And you talked about testing right now and evaluations. Oh my God, it's just a lot. So I always tell my folks all the time, this is the time of year that you want to just recharge. I used to make Thursdays my day of spending time with my family and making sure I took them to the movies and just recharging, because the next day, let me tell you, you're going to talk to your kids again and they sometimes frustrate you. Other colleagues frustrate you. And or parents or everything. So I highly suggest take care of yourself before you can take care of others.
Very true, very true. So just don't forget the pop, guys, whenever you have that. And it's okay to have that dialogue. Don't excommunicate your team member on the same collaborative team. You got to work together. You got to break down data together. You know, it's a time to make sure that we're all in it, because in the end, we are builders and we're building the future of this country. And this country requires a lot of solid foundations going forward. So as people like me retire, Mari already retired, the older generation, we're going. We need to make sure that we leave everything in place. And that's the purpose of the PGP podcast. Just like other team members here, they have books, they have podcasts to make sure that we're all prepped, that we're all solid. Because as Mari says, we need to be solid to ensure that our kids are moving forward and living in a perfect bubble, the best that we can within the means that we have in our campus culture and climate. And if you want to listen to some more positivity before our awesome guests come in, check out episode episode 32, which was the first happy show with Lainey Rao, with Brandy Godino, the culture queen, Chaz Perez, and the boss. But without further ado, coming in from Illinois and all parts of the United States, we've got leading like pirates. We've got the best blue glasses out there. We've got authors here. We've got panel. Thank you. Muchas gracias por estar aquí hoy. The Happy Show number 2 with nothing but the best. And right now, Dr. Moreno, take it away.
Oh my God, I'm super excited because you know what? I know we're going to rock the house tonight. So I'm super excited you guys are here, and it's called The Happy Show for a reason, because I know you guys are going to bring it. But before we even get started, you guys, we need to let the audience know, who are we, right? So guys, if you can just, Katie, I'm going to start off with you. Let the audience know what your current role is and a brief background on your different roles that you serve while in education, and which one was your favorite?
Whew, that's a big question. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Kinder, and teacher, author, instructional coach, speaker. And I mean, I think my love is always going to be the English classroom. I did some high school, some middle school. I spent most of my career in 8th grade. And so I know it takes a special kind of weirdo to love those middle schoolers, but I love them. And you too, yeah. And yeah, now I'm just going all over, and I'm loving the teachers and the baby teachers. I love me the baby teachers, and we got to keep them in our profession. And yeah, that's who I am. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Katie. Wonderful. Looking forward to more conversations with you. How about you, Joshua?
Oh goodness, I was an art teacher, so I got to be in the spaces where there's activity and creativity happening, and then I got to make sure that I'm looking like Katie here. So I'm rocking today, so I'm ready.
I'm ready too. So, Josh, what are some of your current roles? Just you said you were a fine arts teacher.
I was an art teacher for 6 years, and then administrator for almost a decade in the middle school area. So, like Katie said, we're a bunch of weirdos here. I love just that age group. They're like sponges, and just couldn't get enough of it. So, spent almost 20 years in the middle school. Went from para to teacher to administrator, and loved every second of it. So now consulting and traveling and doing all kinds of crazy stuff and writing books, as you can see behind me.
Awesome. And which one's your favorite?
My favorite book?
Your favorite role. Was it
I was gonna say, all my books are great. No, favorite role? Oh goodness. They're all so different. I'll say this. When I was an athletic coach, there's something different about that role. You go through the hallways and every kid just pours love on you and acts like they know you, even though you don't. It's a different vibe than, being a fine arts teacher or even an administrator. Sometimes as an administrator, sometimes I felt like I was the sheriff walking through and everyone was looking at if I was, coming for them because they were in trouble. But as a coach, it was just kind of a different role and different way people viewed you. Is quite interesting.
Yeah, coach is amazing. It's such an important role, and it's a different way of connecting with kids. So yeah, absolutely. Sure. Thank you for sharing. George, how about you?
Hey everyone.
Background on you.
How's everyone doing? Y'all can hear me clearly?
Perfect.
Fantastic. My name is George Valenzuela. I was a middle school teacher for about 5 to 6 years. And then I became a district level administrator for 9 years. And now I'm on the road. I serve educators K through 16, which means college as well. And I coach in a variety of things, leadership, of course, and also teaching and learning. And my favorite teaching space had to be middle school. That was my only experience. So
people are always scared of middle school. I don't know why. And so far, everybody here is in middle school is their favorite. And I have to say it's my favorite too. So awesome. Thank you, George. Appreciate it. How about you, Beth?
Hello, everyone. I'm going to break the mold a little bit here. Middle school, while I loved it, my time there, I'm currently the very proud principal at Capital City High School here in Jefferson City, Missouri. And this is my 17th year as a building principal. And I love it. I love my job that I have right now the most. And I think anytime you'd have asked me what job was my favorite, it'd been the job that I was in at the moment. And I have served as an elementary principal, as a middle school principal, for 8 years during COVID, which I feel like that tripled that time, right? And then now as the high school principal. And what I love about being a high school principal is I get to see kids take everything that they've had through all the years and then become human-like. Like they're like adults and you can finish a whole sentence. That was the thing that started to drive me a little crazy about middle school is you never had an actual conversation. Sometimes you're in the beginning, sometimes you're in the middle, sometimes you're in the end, but you never really close the gap between all three. And so that's my favorite part of high school is watching them grow into themselves and recognizing since I've been at every level that they're elementary, they're middle, their families, everyone's poured into them and I get to see them just grow. And so I also am a proud author of Lead Like a Pirate and love that book. I do consulting and speaking as well. And then also am very honored to serve on the board for the National Association for Secondary School Principals, which is something that I love to do is to provide that extra support for principals because it's definitely a profession that is a lot. It's a lot, right? But it's the best job ever.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And last but not least, Phil, come on, give me your energy, boss. Come on.
All right, guys, good to see you. First of all, to my middle school friends out there, I did teaching internship senior year of high school, helped with the 6th grade science class, and within an hour knew that I would never teach in middle school ever. So how about that for the mic drop, friends? My name's Phil Januszewski. I'm a chem and physics teacher in the high school setting. This is my 20th school year. So by day, I'm an educator in the science world. And by night, I'm a motivational speaker with my best friend. I speak to youth as M&P presentations. And myself solo, I love to pour into adult givers like educators through what my company's called the Positive Growth Lounge. So all about lifting up good vibes. But my favorite space has to be the young adults just about to go off and get to that, George, which I never heard, that grade 16 vibe. I like that. So getting up there, man, I love helping them with that transition. So if we're doing science and we're growing and becoming adults, that's my wheelhouse. That's what I love.
Phil, thank you so much. And everybody, thank you so much for sharing your background with us. And I think that is important to know so that as we're moving on with our questions today, they kind of know what your background is. So awesome. Thank you so much, Josh.
All right. The big shout out to Dodd McKeever for being here, part of the Fantastic Four. If you all don't know, we're part of a group of 4 podcasts. Coach Hurt, Saturdays. Then it's Shika and Tammy. Then it's El Jefe, Principal Cafele. And we round out the 4th show, PGP Podcast, on Sunday night. Shout out to Melissa Jones Jr. from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Valerie Macy. Thank you for being here. All right, guys, let's peel that onion, la cebolla. Let's peel it a little bit back there. Mr. George, tell the audience, we got to get that street cred. You know, George always talks about street cred. Let me tell you, that guy on his podcast always talks about that. George, tell the audience, how were you as a student? How were you as a student? Pick high school or college. High school or college, and how was your first year in the classroom?
I was always an A student. I got all my receipts, all the old report cards. Elementary school in New York, I was rocking the S's and the A's. And all the way through college, I had a 3.5 in undergrad, and in my master's program right now, like 3.8. So I've always been academically inclined, but what would mess me up was I would get into fights. I wasn't the leader I am now, especially in high school, middle school. I was a follower. I was always ready to do what all my friends were doing, except anything that was criminal. For some reason, God always put it in my heart not to break the law. But if there was a fight or something was going on, I was right there always. And that got me suspended. It got me expelled, but my grades were impeccable.
You made it hard for me to suspend you, brother. I want to wring your neck. Behave. Hey, shout out to the president of Massachusetts Secondary School Principals, Doc Raquel Edoweke. Thank you for being here. Author and speaker also. Katie, how are you?
George, I hate to tell you this, but fighting is still criminal. It's called assault.
I mean, back in the 80s and 90s, if they had it coming, I mean,
He's
there was
like,
no cameras.
not
There was
in
no
the
camera.
Actually, I'm going to be real honest. I had pretty decent grades, but I was in and out of suspension. I was in and out of being in in-house suspension. I also fought. I'm freakishly strong for a girl. I just want to let you know. And and I think it was about my sophomore year when I had a soccer coach that was like, hey, you're pretty good. Like, why don't you get your life together? And you could maybe even play in college. And so then I turned it around. And so, yeah, that's who I was as a kid. And I was ornery. So when I look at my own students and they're a little bit ornery, I vibe with them because I see myself in them. Yeah.
Of course. We all, that's the thing. We see ourselves in our kids, right?
Yeah.
Well, hey, Shika's in the house. The doctors. Thank you for being here. Part of the Fantastic Four. Josh, talk to us.
Well, I did not get good grades. I hated school, and I was present physically, but mentally I was not. If you looked at my notebooks, I had drawings upon drawings, and I was in my own world. And I really just was there because I had to be. And it frustrated my teachers. It frustrated my parents. There were a lot of discipline that occurred because, I didn't really do my work. And in my mind, I was like, I'm not going to use this. So like, why do I have to bother? But, as I got older and reflected, there was a lot of things at home I didn't have control over, but I did have control over what I did at school. And it was kind of, for me, just like my own way of rebelling. I never got ISS. I never got like sent to the office. But as far as my grades, they were terrible. And it wasn't until my junior year in high school, I actually had a very stern counselor, which shocked me because I didn't think that's what counselors did. But he brought me into his office and was like, kind of had a come to Jesus meeting with me and was like, slap my grades on the table. Where are you going to go to school? I told him where I wanted to go to school. It was a private college in Minnesota. And he laughed at me and said, dude, you're not getting in any school. You're not getting into a private university. You're barely going to get in college, community college. And I remember leaving that meeting just being so furious. And it was like, okay, you want to challenge me? Game on. And for me, it was like a pride thing. You're not going to tell me who I am, what I can do, and I'm going to prove you wrong. I know it's a game. I'll play the game. And so that's what I did. I played the game. I by the grace of God, got into the college that I wanted to and graduated in 4 years. So for me, it was a proud moment because I was like, I don't see value in this, but I understand that there's something in our society that requires us to do this. And that was that light bulb moment with that challenge. And so for me, a high school student was very different than my undergraduate and extremely different from when I got my master's. I got a 4.0 when I was, going through my master's program. So, which was far different than the, 2 point whatever I was getting in high school. So, I definitely matured, but it did take kind of that tough love and that challenge for me to kind of get myself in gear.
Got it. Beth, talk to us. How's that pirate life?
Hey.
How's the pirate life?
I have to say, I'm excited because I am part of the fight club too. Because I will never forget in 8th grade, I punched the school bully right in the face, and I mean, I didn't get in trouble for it. Although I talk like I'm a fighter, I'm really not a fighter. But I'll never forget that moment. I think for me, like to go back to the original question though, I share this very openly when I speak. Is that my parents were 14 when they found out they were going to be parents, right? So education was my key to success. And so I had to do well in school to get out of the situation in which I was born into. And I think so for me, it was like, I have to do this. This is not an option. In order for me to go to do something, while I appreciate, and my mom was right there always like cheering from the background saying, you've got to do, I want for you. And so I did well in school. I figured out how to do school. I didn't see relevance in it, but I figured out how to do school. And I think that's something that I carry on in my role now is how can we make school more relevant? How can we figure out how to make everything that we do more relevant, right? Mm-hmm. But I figured that piece out because and then for me, music is what really like grabbed my interest. And so I actually went to college on a music scholarship and planned to be a music teacher. I always tell everybody I was D1 marching band, right? So I mean, I don't know how many like friends I win with that one, but I still like I just encourage it. And for me, that message that to our kids, making sure our kids know that, because a lot of times our kids see us in our principal gear, right? They see us and they think we have it all together. And so I'm very open with my students of, hey, you can do this. Like you are not defined by what you think you can truly be anything that you want to be, because statistically speaking, that's not where my trajectory was supposed to be. Right. So again, I think making sure we own our story.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Phil, it was not purposeful, brother, at all. You got the last one right there, my man.
Oh, the closer. Guys, in high school, I'm a super extrovert. So I loved being in the building. I loved seeing everybody, guys, girls, the teachers. I loved having connections with everyone. I did well in school, got A's and B's. I was very obedient. Respected and enjoyed the system that I grew up in, felt super supported by my teachers. Education was super valued by my parents. I had very supportive, loving parents. So I never really questioned it. I feel like I'm not a badass like some of you guys that like, I just was like, this is what you do. So this is what I'm going to do. And luckily I've had a lot of great people guide me in my life. And as a junior in high school, my chem teacher helped me realize that teaching was my calling, and I didn't even know it, but he let me know that you love being here. You obviously love learning. You love people. Like, have you ever considered being an educator? Like, this is your career. And that was it. It's like a light bulb. So always was the case. Yeah, I just really enjoyed it, got along, did well. So I'll never be writing a book about that because that's super boring.
Thank you everyone for sharing. And just like we said before the show, some of the following questions are, hey, you know what, in education, I'll put it out there into the zone, out into the sphere. A lot of us educators, we don't want at all. We don't want the pats on the back. Some do. Don't get me wrong, some do. All right. But the panel that you have before you are 100% humble, hardworking, and when they work with you, the adult, they're really working to ensure that that story they just told transmits their knowledge to you, so you could help that little Beth, that little Katie, that little Josh, that little George, that little Phil. That's the people that do this, because trust me, Mari and I are not getting one penny from this. All right, we're not doing. We ain't getting money. All right, none of us right here. This is about ensuring that we're all in this team, whether it be Maine, whether it be Florida, whether it be Hawaii or Alaska. We're all on the same team, and we're all need to be bonded together. So I have asked our panel today to make sure that we're all, we open ourselves up on what we've witnessed, on how the beauty, the awesomeness that is our field, our education. And so some of these questions are going to be hitting close to your spirit, and please tune in. Hey, ask questions, send out comments if they're touching your spirit. Dr. Moreno.
Thank you, Josh. And you know what? I love the fact that you said, Beth, own your story, because it's so important for kids to actually realize that we too were in their shoes as well, right? And look at us. We branched out in how successful we are today, because sometimes they need to see, they see principals, they see educators as this perfect person, right? And they don't really know that we too have our own stories. And so bringing that out and sharing that with the kids sometimes really supports and helps them. And the fact that, Phil, oh my God, you said that your chemistry teacher is what made you become a teacher, and then you're a chem teacher. Oh my God, that is so cool. So I love that. Here I'm taking notes because I just love little stories like that. But talking about stories, and Josh was just kind of alluding to this, it's important for us to kind of share a story. Tell the audience out there about your current work and how you help change the trajectory of an educator or a campus leader that you've worked with, right? So I'm going to have you, George, start first. Just tell us about, just really quickly, a story and how you helped another teacher change your trajectory. I know it's a hard one.
Well, I can't think of one per se, but I get a lot of emails and I get a lot of messages. And I get people just saying to me, or like walking up to me after a keynote or after a session and just like opening up your cell phone. Hey, you wrote this article, 3 ways to do this, 2 ways of doing that. But one that stands out is how to know when it's time to leave your job and your profession or something like that. And this teacher said that you reminded me of why I became a teacher. A lot of people don't realize that if you look at research studies that show why people enter our profession and remain in the profession, the top answers are always tied to self-efficacy and confidence, which means someone says, hey, I can do this, and then they try. So anything that challenges a teacher's self-efficacy, especially in the beginning, is going to cause anxiety and stress. As a coach, as a leader, our job, especially right now, because according to RAND research of 2024, it says that a lot of people want to leave our profession. Our job right now is to build up our teachers in 3 things. First, in their confidence in our profession, in their teaching ability, and in our ability to lead. So when that person showed me, hey, George, I read your article a couple of years ago. I didn't know that you were the keynote, but you reminded me that his confidence and self-efficacy, I had to look internally and ask myself why I'm not confident. And then I had to work on the skill sets and on the mindset in order to be where I need to be. So I get a lot of them, but that's really the one that stands out, especially nowadays with all the stuff we see online, like how Josh was saying, there's a lot of negativity. And so a lot of people need to be reminded that a lot of times it's not really imposter syndrome. It's just a lack of experiences and sometimes a lack of confidence. So let's build that up, help each other, and then do the job that we came to do, which is to help the individuals in our classes.
Hey George, what is there? Is there like something that you can kind of pinpoint or just throw out there so everybody could know, like what is an example or what they can do just quickly?
Yeah, I like to do self-reflective prompts, and I write down when something doesn't go my way. I write down what happened, right? And then I try to name what my feeling or what my emotion was. And then I look at strategies that could bring me into the mindset that I need to be. One of the things that I don't like to see online, which is true, but it's partially true, is it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay there. And so we have to be responsible, self-help, self-care, self-improvement for our own mindset and skill sets and emotions. And so I just do that.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I know that's really good information for a lot of our folks out there that are probably feeling that way, that they can at least start there, try this and see if that'll work for them. Right. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Hey, Dr. Moreno, real quick, a big shout out to Jefe. Jefe's here. I don't know what airplane he's about to board out there in New York, but Principal Cafele, thank you for being here, part of the Fantastic Four again. Go ahead, Dr. Moreno.
Phil, you're not going to be last this time. How about that?
Well, thanks, guys. It's not like PE basketball teams. That's great. I would like to say, to add then, I would say one of my natural character strengths is love. So the way I like to change the trajectory of coworkers, whether that's custodial staff, bus drivers, fellow teachers, is to love on people. And I like to do that in social ways, whether that's organizing like a thank you dinner for the custodial staff, whether that's organizing a Thursday night dinner out where we do a family style meal and I just send out the Google form. It's little things like that that I think when people know I see you, I value you, I love you, and I'm here for you, all of a sudden I think our walls drop, we're more vulnerable, and we're way more likely to lean on each other and ask for help. And I try to do that and model that every day in the building. And I think students see the way I interact with my coworkers and they start to model it maybe without even realizing it. So I would say that loving hard on people is the way that I personally can change the trajectory of someone's life.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Phil. And it's so important to kind of feel that, right? It's so there's this sense in the air that sometimes you just have to do these things in your school so that you can kind of change the culture and the feeling of, it's like we have this sense, right, that something's not right. So I love the fact that you do that to help support your staff and the folks there in your school. Katie, how about you? You have a question?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So George and Phil, I love I love the love.
Yes.
And so good. I love the love. Yeah. When I stand on stage and I do a keynote, and I love a keynote because it's, it's uplifting, and I'm talking about creating experiences that last a lifetime for our kids, right? And I love that. But I'm also not just a keynoter. Like I've got several contracts, and I'm just thinking of one right now where I get to go in and embed in classes couple times a month. And I'm not just going to stand on the stage and say, you should do a Socratic seminar with your kids. Like I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a Socratic seminar with your kids. I can step into your toughest class and show you what classroom management looks like. And, I have a friend who's like, well, aren't you worried that the kids they don't care about you? I'm like, yeah, kids are kids like that. Let me show you in real time how I would handle something. And so that is what I do for my teachers and the baby teachers. And that's what I did as an instructional coach as well.
Awesome. Have you ever had a teacher who kind of felt like they really weren't being supported, and did they ever reach out to you so that you can kind of like Like, how do you support that one teacher that is just kind of
Absolutely.
struggling?
Well, I mean, it's an honor to mentor teachers all over the nation. But I always mentored in my district. I always mentored the baby teachers, and either by like I was their formal mentor. And so there were many times I had this little couch in my room. We called it the cry couch. Come on in, sit down on the cry couch. I always had food. Like, you're never going to bite the hand that feeds you. And then just to let them know, please, here's some chocolate. But just to let them know that it's hard, and sometimes courage is not a roar. Sometimes it's a whisper that we're going to try again tomorrow, and that's okay. And that even vet teachers have tough days, and that's okay. And we're in this together. Like, you should lean on me, and I'm going to lean on you. And if I'm not connecting with the kid the way that I know that I need to, I need Phil to, I need Beth to. And so just the fact that we have each other, and that is really how I mentor.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Joshua, a story that you can tell about changing the trajectory of an educator.
Yeah. I think obviously as an administrator, when you're on campus, it's a lot easier to do than, like Katie was saying, you're on the stage and talking to a large amount of people. But after a keynote, I always put my phone number up on the screen for folks at the very end. And some people think I'm crazy for doing that, but I also find that people that need permission actually have wonderful conversations through those texts. And I've heard some really, really tough stories of folks that, just emotionally they're going through it. Maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's a parent that's passed. I mean, you can fill in the blank as to what's going on in all these different educators' lives. But I think the main thing that they're understanding is that it's okay to focus on themselves, like the internal shift, because so often we're looking at the external things and trying to change them. And we realize that we don't have the power to do that, but we do have the power to take care of ourselves. And a lot of folks just need that permission to understand that, yes, you can go and, subtract some certain things that are not important in your life that are going to bring a lot of stress. And you're going to be a better person for that. Your kids are going to see that. The people around you, parents, other teachers, are going to notice that. They're going to feel that. And it's okay. And, like George was talking about, there's seasons. Sometimes we're in despair for a little bit of time and we need to get ourselves out of that. And it's okay to take some things away off your plate, to get your mind right, to go see a psychiatrist, to go and do some journaling, to go and do something that's going to help yourself to be your best version the next day. And so some of those conversations have been just really powerful. And I appreciate folks being vulnerable enough to send a text just saying, thank you for the permission.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And Beth, how about you? A story about changing someone's trajectory.
Yes, I think that what this really reminds me of, there's a book called Multipliers, and it talks all about how you are the multipliers, right? Everyone is brilliant at something. And so helping people find their brilliance and bring it out. For me, I am blessed in my role as principal. And for 17 years, I really have had the opportunity to help build other leaders. And so when it's hard that APs leave me to go be a principal, it's also a badge of honor to see that I've had the opportunity to influence that in a positive way. But something that I'm very passionate about is mentoring and showing to support for women in school leadership. And so I am privileged and honored to be the co-facilitator of the Women in School Leadership Network for NASSP. And so I've done that for 2 years, and it's great to be able to support. Sometimes leadership is something that people don't always know. They don't always see that in them. And so for whatever reason, right? So how can we really go and support those ways? But it also starts in our buildings. And I run a group called Salvaging Sisterhood for my students at my school. And it's all about just how can we as women, and how can we as young women and, as high schoolers, how can we recognize that it's hard enough being a girl, but like, we don't have to fight each other. We don't have to let's talk through this. And I think really a key to everything you've talked about tonight too, is taking the time to listen and talk through the good, the bad, the ugly, right? We're seeing some very ugly things right now in our time in education. And it's like, it's so easy to just say, okay, well, a student does something wrong, consequence, move on, right? But it's those conversations, those restorative conversations that you can have afterwards. And sometimes you have to move slow to move fast too. And I think it's hard for us to remember that as well. So just a long answer to a short question, but I think don't ever underestimate the opportunity to talk and grow folks in the hallway, right? Between passing period. It doesn't have to be this huge grand gesture.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. And you know what? It's important as educators and as principals and as leaders on our schools that we see and we help support those that need someone to talk to, right? Because we can see it. And sometimes these educators, these teachers, these other professions are not necessarily open to talk, right? They don't know they're going to be leaders, but the other part also is sometimes they don't know how to reach out for help either, or how to kind of talk through that. So it's important for us as educators and as leaders of our building to kind of watch our teachers and reach out to them and make sure they're okay and share the love, like Phil says, right? Because sometimes if they see that you care about them, they're going to open up and say, hey, you know what? I need to talk to you about something. And then that's going to really help them become better people themselves and be happy. So, because it's a happy show, right? Right, Josh?
So, this next question right here is, look, it's so important that we support each other as adults. After, well, I think I'm at 32 years in this game. All right. That's a lot of decades. All right. And so I know how hard it is. And when I mention something, again, it's part of the happy show. Look, I make it a point I know how hard it is. I've led a city of 2,500 kids plus the staff to my beautiful little house now. I have less hair, but it's okay. I'm able to lead both. What do I mean by that? In other words, it's crucial that I support my team member. And again, what I said, whether it be Maine, Florida, Hawaii, or Alaska, I make it a point, and I'm holding you, whoever, I'm talking to you. I'm holding you accountable to lift your colleague up in Maine, in Florida, in Iowa, in Nebraska. I don't care about any kind of red or blue, none of the stuff. We're all in the same game, the best game, the kid game. So do what you have to do to lift each other up. Hey, I make it a point to at least send 20 texts per morning to people. It doesn't matter. I make it a point to send that out there because I know how hard this job is. When you got to deal with a cheerleading mom, Beth, you know what I'm talking about. When you got to deal with a softball mom that doesn't want to sell cookie dough and she wants to take the kid on the trip. No. Or the cell phone, the famous cell phone. So what I'm saying to you out there, this is not like Jerry Brooks says, peanut butter and jelly. No, we need to see this and learn from other people's positive actions to move ahead because it's a rough and testing is here. Testing is here. So even more so, send out 2 or 3 texts to somebody and say, hey, compa, ¿cómo estás? Hey, how are you doing? So let's go back into the actual aspects of this, which are our kids. The pop, George, the pop. So I want you to go into, I'm going to show my age, go into your card catalog and go into there in the library, Beth, and talk about whether as an administrator, a principal, assistant principal, a teacher, a coach, whatever it might be. Talk about one story that you connected with a kid that kid says, what wall do you want me to run through, Coach Beth? What fire do you want me to walk on? Because you know what? That you made the pop with that kid. Talk to us, Beth.
I knew you were going to make me go first on this one. This is so hard because I love our kids so much, and I love their stories, and it's hard because some of them I don't want to share openly too because I respect their privacy. But probably one of my biggest kiddos that I see right now. What's neat about her is for those of you that I keep referencing NASSP, but they've been such a good support system to me through the years, especially during COVID. But the new March edition of the Leadership Magazine is out, and it actually features this student. And she is a girl. When I first met her, when I was walking the halls when I got hired, but I hadn't started, she would not speak to me. She not only would not speak to me, she would turn around and totally walk away from me. And then I just kept going, right? I just kept listening. I just kept smiling. I just kept saying, no matter how many obscenities she would throw at me, I would just smile and nod and, just say, hey, I'll get you next time. Because sometimes our egos get in the way, right? We think that, oh my gosh, so a lot of times too, I'm just like, well, it's not the first time I've heard that word, and I'm probably hear it again. So, but just making sure that, again, not taking ourselves too seriously and recognizing that our kids are going through so much. But the thing about this young lady is she has gone through so much in her life. And at this point in time, like I said, we are so close. She comes to see me every day. Very few students have my phone number, but she has my phone number because she asked me this year to come to her baptism. And I went, right? And it was a church that goes for a very, very long time. But I still stay, like, we went the whole time. She was so nervous about being dunked. But it was just like one of those experiences that, it was so special. And so that's just a little bit. But again, I just taking the time, right? Again, it's taking the time and making sure that you put your ego in check and recognizing that most of the time when kids are lashing out, it's because of so many other things than whatever's right in front of their face right there. So.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. I got you. I got you. Those quinceañeras or those sweet 16s or thank you. Awesome. Josh, talk to us.
Yeah, I had a middle school student in 6th grade that was just a ball of energy, couldn't stand still, got kicked out of class often. So, it was one of my first years as an assistant principal, and he just didn't know what to do with me. I just kept asking him about him as a person and as an individual to learn more before correcting the behavior. And he was kind of like, let's get to the point. Like, am I going to ISS? He was kind of like trying to speed up the process to just like, you don't care about me, dude. Just give me the consequence, give me the punishment. And, I just kept working with him. And over time, what I started to realize was like, this kid's really bright. It's just that the environment that he's in is just not conducive to him. And so just working with his teachers and working with him and it really turned into like a mentor-mentee relationship over time. And it was probably the strongest looking back in all of my educational career. As a teacher, coach, and administrator, he would come back and volunteer his time in high school. Unfortunately, he got jumped and was sent to the hospital. His mom called me. I was there right away. Like, we just had a different bond. And it was just, he's an adult now and extremely successful. And it's one of those types of things where you hope that your influence in a child's life is going to then put them on a better trajectory. And unfortunately for educators, and I think this is sometimes the frustrating part, is that you don't get to see a lot of that, especially if you're an elementary or middle school teacher. They move on to your building, they go off. And unfortunately, the time that you've spent on them and the way that you've influenced them sometimes isn't seen until they're an adult, right? And so we just kind of have to hope and trust that the things that we've helped to guide puts them where they need to be. And for him, it was really cool to actually see it in real time and to see the difference that not just myself, but like the team, his grade level. And, by the end of his 8th grade career, he was in honors classes and he was getting straight A's and he was, being a leader on our campus. He was a mentor to younger kids and he was just making a huge impact. And it all started with just a conversation of, dude, what do you like to do? Tell me more about yourself. Right. So I think as far as educators go, we just have so much influence.
Yes.
Love it. Awesome. Katie, talk to us.
I think Josh is right, because our ripples are felt for years and years and years to come. And we may or may not know what we did for a certain kid until years later, or maybe never. I had a little girl who was having a really hard time, and her mom called me and she said she's having so much anxiety about going to the lunchroom. And is there any way that we can just put some snacks in a drawer in your room and she can just stay in your room for lunch? And I'm like, sure. And I did. I filled the snack drawer up. She came in every day. Every once in a while, she would come in and bring a friend. And I worked. I was working or I was eating lunch, and I'd ask them how they're doing and tell me everything. 5 years later, I'm an instructional coach at a building where I don't know anyone, and I have a mask on, and everybody has a mask on. And I'm standing outside in the pouring rain doing car duty. And this woman launches herself at me and is bawling and holding on to me. And I was just like, she's like, "Are you Miss Kinder?" And I'm like, "Yes." And she pulls her face covering down. I pull mine down. And she said, and I will not name the girl's name, but she said, "My daughter was very close to dying by suicide." And you with your snap drawer and you just showing some kindness kept her alive. I didn't know. And I think that a lot of times our teachers don't know about the ripples that they are creating just through love and kindness, like Phil said. So that's mine.
Beautiful. Phil.
Yeah, Katie took the words right out of my mouth. Like, sometimes I think the fascinating moments are the emails or the run-ins years later that you had no idea that kid would have run through a brick wall with you. I think the age of kids, young adults, they don't really know how to let you know or show that. Or maybe, as Beth would say, you got a funny way of showing how you love me, right? But as they get older, they can better explain that, and they reach out. So some of those moments have really refueled me on times where you start to question, are you making an impact? And the longer you get to teach, the longer you get to be in this industry, this sector, you really start to see the impact. But I've been blessed to have a lot of great moments with great relationships with kids. One of them was I just had one of those classes that gelled so well. We were a physics class. We would make tacos together. We would just do the most random things. And when we'd have time, we would just sit and talk together. They were just a really special energy. And at the end of the year, I remember they took a collection. These are just, 16-year-olds. And they knew they knew I loved penguins. And they bought me this penguin tie. And they just bought a card. And they all wrote, not just like signed their names, but they all wrote like a really nice, simple, heartfelt note that, I just felt like to get 16-year-olds to all get on board, to write a note together, like it really meant a lot to me. And but you know what? I knew that they meant a lot to me and I meant a lot to them. It was felt already, but for them to be able to express that was just like icing on the cake. And a lot of them still on LinkedIn reach back out and keep in touch with me. But it really is like sometimes you feel it and sometimes you don't. But when you're aware of it and reminded, it really is probably one of the greatest parts of this profession. I think we'd all agree.
Amen. Hermano, George.
Man, so many great things. So I'm going to show my age. I actually turned 50 this week, and I left the classroom back in 2007. And it's countless times that I'm in a restaurant with my wife or my people, and kids walk up, young adults walk up to me and dap me up and say, "Mr. V, man, remember me?" And a lot of times I do, but sometimes I don't. And what I'll say about that is that when I reflect back on my early teaching, I would be lying if I told you that I was the teacher I am now. I didn't understand high yielding strategies. I got a bunch of textbooks and lectures in my pre-service program. So it took me until I got into leadership, where I had to model for educators, where I went and actually learned a bunch of strategies. And then in the PhD program, I learned the science behind them. But one of the things that I did have was I had love for all my students. And love is a feeling. It fluctuates. It goes up and down. But I learned a long time ago that primarily love is a verb. It's an action that we do every day, even when we don't feel like it. Love for our students needs to always be unconditional. And I remember very early on, I got to teaching the IB program. I had a senator's son in my class, the secretary of education for my state, her daughter was in my class, and I had a great time with those kids. But when I had to now, pick another school, I picked an inner city school. And they were like, "Why would you want to do that, George?" Well, I'm not a role model for those kids. I'm a role model for, kids like me that are inner city, went to the foster care system, group homes, things like that. And the one thing that I would always do is make sure that I treat those kids as individuals. And the love was there, but at times it was tough love. Young man, listen to me. We are not judged the same way. We're not treated the same way. So we have to always be twice as smart. And so I chose not to talk to them when things were going bad. I spoke to them all the time. And one of the greatest compliments I receive is from a young person that says, yo, Mr. V, those words you said back in 05, 03, I can still hear them playing in my head right now.
Beautiful. Awesome. Those words, exactly. Those ripple effects. Dr. Moreno.
Awesome, guys. Such powerful stories. Oh my goodness. And it's just amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I want to kind of continue with the storytelling because it's so powerful to kind of hear what impact us as educators have on kids. But I want to kind of make it a little more broader. So talk about, excuse me. Have you ever been positively blindsided? I'll start with you, Katie. Okay. Positively blindsided by a former student, it could be a team member or maybe even a colleague, who maybe have told you helped them out in their careers or in life in general.
Absolutely. So, you know those kids who are like those big personalities and you remember their first and their middle and their last name. And I had a kid who was a big personality, some anger, and I taught him for 2 years. I looped up with him. So I had him in 7th grade. I looped up with him in 8th. And I would often say to him, I'm gonna love you into submission. Like I was, and he would throw a desk and then I'd say it again. I'm gonna love you into submission. And I'm invited to graduation, which is always an honor. And I'm a little bit of a rule breaker. So instead of watching them from far away on a stage walk by, like once they're my babies, they're always my babies. And so I go in and where they're holding them in the gym and feel like a celebrity. Like I feel like Taylor Swift without the money and without the body and without the boyfriend and the talent. You get it. And I go in and hi, Miss Kinder. Oh my gosh. And this kid, they grow a lot from 8th grade to senior year. And he is running at me and I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm like, oh, and he hugs me and picks me up and is like, Miss Kinder, I'm going to college. I'm playing ball. And he almost he cries. He breaks down and cries and said, I remember what your class felt like and smelled like and how it was calming and fun. And it's hilarious because when I think back for the 2 years, I think back about me saying, I'm gonna love you into submission and him throwing a desk, right? So I think that that's really cool. That even though we think that a kid probably hates us when they leave because we loved them enough to have high expectations, which is what is doing what's right for kids, right? Is we had high expectations and that's how we love them. And so it was really cool to see him, break down in tears and say that about my class.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you, Katie. And those are those tough kids that we all sometimes want to like, but I mean, the fact that you broke them and everything is all great afterwards, it's just amazing. I love hearing stories like that. How about you, Beth? I know you have you're a high school principal. I know you have some stories for me.
Well, I think as I was listening to Katie, and I mean, I'm going to take it a different direction, but like my life was forever changed as a principal when I lost my first student. And that was my very first year of being a principal in 2008. And it was the last interaction I had with that 4th grader was not the most positive. We just had conferences and she was being sassy and she, and her mom and I, like, it was kind of will of the wills, right? And so at that moment, when going through that, I recognized, like, first of all, I can never not have it. Like any interaction I have with anyone in my life needs to make sure one that I can, if it's the last time I have the chance to interact with them, has to be one that I'm proud of and that I can take, and that they would be proud of as well. And so for me, to be honest, I have unfortunately lost now 8 to 9 student, my 9th student in 17 years. And I think the relationships that I keep with those parents and families, because they are missing out, and recognizing that as a high school, our high school is only 6 years old, and we lost our very first student ever as a high school last year. And I recognized very quickly that I had the opportunity to help a parent through the hardest time. Right. And it's not comfortable. No one says, oh, I want to do these things. Right. But helping her, because he would have been a senior this year, and anything that you can do to help these parents out, leaves a legacy, lets them live on. And so, for example, Friday, I was able to text her and say, hey, I have something for you if you can come in. And she had asked if we would get a cap and gown for him. And I said, no problem. But I got a hold of Jostens and I said, hey, she's like, no problem. We'll comp this for you. And which is a lesson in and of itself. The worst people can say is no. Like anytime you need something, anytime I've gone through something like this, I've always gotten more pictures from the picture companies, whatever I can get to help the family. And so I said, hey, can we get a class ring or something for him to commemorate him to his family? And so Jostens designed a ring with me, and I was able to give that to that mom. And again, just never underestimate. It's hard, and it doesn't it hurts, right? It hurts because we all have our own trauma with death that we go through. But just again, going back to that of always recognizing we have the chance to make other people's life better, even in horrible situations. So how can we lead with that? And other people are watching you, whether it be the teachers, the kids, right? So sometimes it's hard because it hurts us, but making sure that we take that time to just help when we need to be helped, serve when we need to serve.
Oh, Beth, that's such an amazing story. And thank you for doing that, right? Because it's important. They lost a loved one, and here it is their senior year, and there's so many benchmarks that go along with that they're that they hurt. And so thank you so much for doing that. And I know the family is very grateful and very happy, and I losing so many kids, it hurts. So I'm just, my heart goes out to you, and thank you so much for the work that you do, because that's hard. Joshua, my God, I don't know how you can go after that one, because that one hurt me.
Yeah, well, and I've had the same, unfortunately, over the years, of losing students, and it's one of the toughest things to go through as an educator. But I want to kind of go off of what Beth was talking about, is just like those little moments. And, for myself, I always want to make myself visible in the hallways as much as possible for my teachers and for my students, because, and I'm going to equate this to soccer, so bear with me. I was a soccer player for 25 years, and I coached soccer after that. And I used to give this as as information to my players, is that you're going to run for 90 minutes. However, the average time that you actually touch the ball is less than 2 minutes. And that can feel frustrating, but what I want you to understand is that you need to be intentional with the few seconds that you have that ball. And the same thing goes with educators. You may only have 10 seconds with a student or with a staff member. You may have 5 minutes, but you really need to be intentional that when they walk away from you, that they are getting something of value, that they are seen, that they're heard, that they're cared for, and that they belong in that setting. And for myself, the most powerful thank you I got was at the end of the year. There was a girl that was very quiet, and every morning I started before school even started, I'd walk the halls and I would just simply say, "Good morning, how are you doing this morning?" And she would answer, and I would smile. And she wrote in this card how impactful that was, because she didn't want to be there, and she eventually shared just some of the most traumatic things that were going on at home. I had no idea. I barely knew the girl's name. I didn't know anything, but just the small interactions that I had gave her a little hope and a little drive to get through her day. And it's just as simple of smiling and having a positive interaction before the school day even occurred. And for me, it was just kind of this light bulb moment to say, those little things matter, and they add up over time. And you just never know what the impact that you're going to make, just even with a small, kind gesture.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. George, how about you?
So I have to back off Beth as well. I had a student that had a lot of difficulty when I was a teacher in middle school, and I always treated him right. I always showed love. I was always very uplifting to this student. Well, when I got into leadership, he passed away. And one of the biggest honors, even though I was extremely sad, was that his mother went into my office at central office, and she asked me to do the eulogy, one of the eulogies. And I was so honored, so scared, so intimidated. But when I went into the church, I remember seeing a bunch of pictures, and there was a picture of him and me that was taken years ago that I had forgotten that we had even taken it. Well, I just told that story because of Beth, but I want to tell another story, and to tell us like really quickly, which is inspiring and also fun. I had this one kid off the chain. I mean, you cannot imagine the type of drama that this kid would cause in school, and they would always send him to me. And I would have conversations with him. He's like, all right, Mr. V, I got you. And then the next day, he's back in the cafeteria. He's on the tables. He's throwing food. And that was a long time ago, like 02, 03. And one day, around 2021, I was in the gym. He walks up to me as a grown man. He says, Mr. V, you won't believe this, but I'm married. I've got children. I have my own business. He had a truck outside, a brand new truck. And we started to follow each other online. And I can honestly say that this man walks the walk, talks the talk, and everything that he said that day in the gym, he is living and breathing that every day. So the one lesson for any educator watching this, never give up on any kid, because you don't know what their potential is. It just takes one person to say that I believe in you. I care about you. I love you, even when you don't love yourself. And that can change their life. Just not right away.
Takes a little time, right? Takes a little bit of time. And I think somebody said this earlier. We don't get to see that sometimes, right? Especially when you're in the younger grades and primary grades, you don't see that. But you're absolutely right. Do what matters and do what's right for kids, because that's going to impact them in the future. We may not see it. Phil, let's round it off, sir.
You got it. Proud to be here with all of you. Thanks for planting all these seeds daily, guys. It's super impactful, super inspiring. Something super lighthearted. There's a teacher in my feeder school that students love and talk about. And that teacher was my student way back in the day, my first year of teaching. And kids just seem to love this guy. And a lot of times when I get them as his former students, they say, you remind me a lot of him. I thought, really? Well, that's nice. He was a nice guy, and we got along really well. And then years later, he reached out and said that he models tons of his teaching after me and what I did. And it was just really flattering that a guy that I knew and we got along really well, that he would play that ultimate compliment, and that the students would notice our similarities. So I just thought, like, what a cool opportunity to plant that seed and to watch him grow and thrive in his own way, but yet that I modeled some things that seemed to have mattered a lot to him. So super flattering and super honored.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Josh, take it away, sir. Talk about that book, sir. Talk about the book.
Real quick timeout right there out there. Look, guys, have you heard all these stories? They're legit mic drops. They're all nonstop, but I like to push a couple books. And I get no money from this. I get nothing. All right. So, there's always that P, B, and J right there. Hey, Superintendent Glenn Robbins right there. Awesome book. Very easy. These are the books that I love to read right there, being an administrator. You know what I'm talking about, right? Look at the word. Woo! Not that much right there. Hey, if you are an educator, you need to learn from the Stoics. Great book right there. Quick read, and it really makes you think. Our guest 2 shows ago, Kevin Curtis. It shows you how to create structure in your classroom. If you're an alt-cert team member and you have no idea how to take control, that's how we lose them, right? First 2-3 years, right, Beth? That's how we lose them. So this is a great how-to, not only for your classroom, but for your campus. Great culture. And if you want to read about 23 different stories from 23 educators from Barbara Bray, someone wrote a chapter right there. Check it out right there. Grow your why. And I know that Dr. Edoweket is in South by Southwest, and she's promoting her book. Phil, you got any books out there you like people to show?
I got favorite books for sure. My favorite's Sean Acor, The Happiness Advantage. One of my favorites, Positive Psychology. Happiness leads to success, not the other way around.
Katie?
Do you want to know my favorite book or my book?
Your
I'm
book,
sorry.
your
My
book, your
book.
book. Yes.
Okay. Well, so I've got 2 out. I've got Untold Teaching Truths, leaning the second edition, leaning into the glasses, put out by Road to Awesome, Darren Peppard. And then I've got Hallway Leadership for leadership teams. And then we've got Culture First Classrooms coming out March 17th. So you guys might have seen some chatter about it, but it's really good. And I'm really excited for it to drop.
Is that also from the Road to Awesome company?
Yes. Road to Awesome, #Road to Awesome.
He'll be here next week. George.
Hey.
So I've got 2 books that are coming out in May. It's through my business partner. It's from my professional development partner, Corwin. The first one is called Instructional Innovation Plus, Cultivating Teaching Teams Through Action Research. It's for leaders in schools that are developing teams or PLCs or whatever you want to call them, or collaborative teams. And they're using action research to improve instruction. And my second book is Project-Based Learning Plus, 2nd edition, helping kids with academic learning and essential life skills. All through Corwin.
Thank you, George. Get that pirate out. Arr.
Okay, got it in both languages here. So Lead Like a Pirate and the Spanish edition as well. Also, I want to highlight, we also have a Lead Like a Pirate guide series. So we also wanted the whole goal of this series is to highlight other leaders that are doing great things that also align to the Lead Like a Pirate philosophy. If you're looking for some great PD, this one specifically, love leading beyond your title, leading with appreciation, balancing. And then of course, this is one of my favorites. That's not actually part of that, but She Leads, just lifting up female leaders. So those are some that I love quite a bit.
I smell a new book out in the aura of education. Is there a new book out there, Josh?
Well, it's right behind me. It's The Language of Behavior with my co-author Charlie Peck with Connected Ed Publishing and Jimmy Casas. And so, yeah, it is only a few weeks old, but if you're looking for anything to help with student behavior right now, that's really why we launched it when we did. This is typically the highest referral month, even though it's the smallest month in the year. And so we knew state testing's coming up. A lot of people need just a little hope in their life. And so that's what this is about. It's a framework to help give some alternatives. And I'm super stoked that we're getting some good reviews and people saying that it's helping them in their classroom and on their campuses.
And your co-author is a rock star, Charlie Peck.
She's amazing.
Check her out. Also, awesome person right there. So we're about to wind down the show, guys, and got 2 quick little questions right now. We'll start off with you, Beth. It's that time, just like Josh said. Thank you for the segue, Josh. I appreciate you. Great minds think alike. Call Josh. It's that time, the referrals, I put up with it this long, and that's it. And they want to kick him out of the classroom. They want you to decapitate the kid. They don't want nothing. Nothing. That's it. I'm done. I don't want him. I refuse to allow him or her in my classroom. Am I lying? Or here comes the drops, those eye drops at lunchtime where you see those inappropriate pictures. And you at the lunchroom you hear, ooh. And then you got angry mom coming in at 2 p.m. saying that her daughter or her son's pictures all over. You know what I'm talking about, Beth, right? You know what I'm talking about right there. Or you got that teacher that has been angry at that new teacher for making her look bad, for doing all that work, and she thinks she's all known. It's that time. It's that time. And that's why we have the great medicine known as the Happy Show 1 and 2, so that we always think glass half full, assume positive intent. So, Beth, give some advice to those educators that are about to go into that state assessment period, and you got little Josh acting up in class. Give them some advice.
I think the first piece of advice is recognizing that what they're feeling is real and it's okay. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be frustrated. I think for me, I have to make sure that I have my, any type of judgment that might come from my face, from my body language, from my mouth. I have to shut my door and get that out, and then recognize that the teacher, there's a reason why admin get this bad rap at times, is because we got to make sure we take time to listen. And if a teacher takes the time to send a referral, especially in February and March, there needs some support, and that's okay. And so really taking time to listen, also same thing, listening to the kids, listening to the parents. And one of my biggest things I always say to the parent that may be angry, I don't deal with a lot of angry parents, because for the most part, when you communicate, when you take time to communicate proactively, a lot of the reactive goes away. But making sure that recognizing when you have a mad parent in front of you, they care enough about their child that they're there. That's typically why they're so angry, right? And the educator that's mad is so frustrated because they cannot teach the other kids that are trying so hard. So the anger comes from passion for what they're doing or who they're doing it for. And then, taking a deep breath. And again, I think I said, you got to go slow to go fast. Is a lot of times, right? We have 10 referrals. We want to get through all of them. No. Sometimes we have to take one referral and it takes 3 days, and that's okay. So just taking time to really get to the core of what the problem is, instead of just worrying so much about the punitive situation or consequence at hand.
Love it. Yes, ma'am. Katie.
This time of year can be really hard. And I think sometimes, and of course, as educators, we talk in acronyms too much. We're like, you need to get with your PLC to the IEP to the RTI and right. So I think sometimes we get bogged down with the data and with the demands of the job that we forget to stop and be joyful with kids and smile with kids and laugh with kids. And it's okay. You can have impeccable classroom management and be teaching rigorous standards and also smile and laugh with kids. And that's what I would tell all of my teachers right now.
George.
So I have to piggyback off Beth again. She's got a lot of great quotes. Don't hit the ground running, hit the ground listening. You have to understand what's going on with people before giving them feedback, advice, whatever. One of the things that I do is I learned from a success coach, James Taylor, on how to segment my audience into 3 parts. And these are dummy numbers, but just work with me. 10% will want to work with you. They understand the assignment. They go to work, and they understand what they have to do, and they're going to rock with you. Now, there's 10% that no matter what you do, they are committed to misunderstanding you. They don't like you. Even if you had Jesus with you as your assistant principal, they are not going to rock with you. It doesn't matter what you do. Now there's 80%, and that's your target audience. That's who you want to prepare your message for. And what I would say is this: a lot of them, they're on the fence. It could be something we said, something we did. It could be the previous leader, whatever. Their perceptions are reality. Their reality. These people, they have to see that we care. They have to see that we care about them, our profession, our students. And when we show up in that way, listening with love and with care, with compromise, except about the kids, then a lot of them will come on our side. And always remember this, and I believe this: there's common ground with everyone except self-centered people. I'll repeat that for all the folks in the back. There's common ground with every person except a self-centered person. And self-centered people, they all have this in common. They lack empathy. They think about themselves all the time. They talk about themselves all the time. And there's different levels of being self-centered. And with some, you can actually reason. Like, you can reason with a selfish person. But with people that are really, really low, it's really hard. So I would say deal with those folks in 3 ways. And the first way, I don't recommend unless you really need your job and it's your boss. Agree with everything they say and praise them. And just know that they love it. Now, the second way I also wouldn't do is to give them pushback. When you give them pushback, they love that negative interaction, and they love to argue, not to win a point, not to make a point, but to ruin your day. And then the third thing that you do with these folks, which I would recommend, is to always keep your door metaphorically open, because we are educators and people can change. It's to just leave the door open in case they change. But in the meanwhile, hello and goodbye.
Facts. Exactly. Hey, George, awesome. Phil.
Yeah, so much is out of our control. The more we can begin to accept that, right, and not let our ego get in the way, that starts to really help a lot that's going on when we let go of control. And I would say that looking upstream, if we start leaning into our healthy habits, if we think about the classroom, if we prepare our classroom to learn, right, we prepare their brains, but how are we preparing ourselves for work? And I think if we dig into that, whatever it is, our morning routine or whatever you want to say, but how are we really preparing to show up for work, right? And that means digging in, leaning into healthy habits, building in the good stuff. And the way we show up matters and allows us to be more resilient, more patient, and of course, once again, to not let our egos get in the way and really understand that a lot is out of our control, and it always will be. But to go with the flow, I think a lot goes easier and better, and we can make it through the tougher months that way.
Love it, Phil. So true. Josh, close us off.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna start with a quote real quick. It's called, or from Dr. Dan Siegel, and he says, "Too often we forget that discipline really means to teach, not to punish. A disciple is a student, not a recipient of behavioral consequences." And for me, I think as administrator, I would tell my staff this all the time. I felt like a doctor. You know, the behavior is telling us something. It's a symptom. It's not normal. So what's the deeper meaning behind it? And I'm finding the resources and the strategies needed to make sure that we're getting them where they need to be able to go into the educational environment and to learn. And so for me, it was always like the connection before the correction. Now, sometimes there was some negativity with the teachers because they're like, I want to be able to do that. I don't have the time to do that. And so I'm going to give one quick strategy. I know, we're bumped up against time, but we implemented what was called a push-in. And so it was an administrator, a counselor, a teacher, another teacher, a coach, going into the classroom, relieving that teacher to be able to go out with that student for a low-level infraction to just say, hey, what's going on with you? And having that deep conversation. And we had 3 questions that we gave every staff member to ask during that time just to kind of help guide that connection piece. And literally like 95% of the time, if not more, the student and the teacher had an agreement. They came back to the class and they didn't lose any instructional time. And they actually had a better bond between the teacher and the student because it wasn't a teacher kicking them out and saying, get out of here, and the student feeling like I'm not wanted anymore in this environment. And it was about the teacher actually having the time to get to know the student deeper and finding out what was really underneath the behavior that they saw. And so just for one quick thing that people can implement tomorrow, and that's also in the book, but I can get on my soapbox for a very long time about this, but that's one thing that you can pull and implement right away.
Thank you for sharing. Dr. Moreno, real quick.
Real quick, you guys, this is going to be lightning round. I just need one piece of advice, right? Bill, we're going to start with you.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give all educators as they relax or prep for the 25-26 school year?
What would they repeat that question again? Sorry, I thought a different one was coming. My bad.
See a twist here. Okay, so what advice would you give all educators as they prepare to relax and prep for the 25-26 school year?
Oh yeah, build in a healthy schedule for sure. Build in the good stuff every day so that you're filling your cup up so that even when things deplete, you still have a positive mental bank at the end of the day. So important. We can't show up our best selves. We can't do the work we want to do.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie.
Just to remember that rest is a requirement, not a reward. So rest.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, George.
The version of yourself that you are right now is perfect. But this version next week, next month, next year is going to be obsolete. So get to it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Beth.
I think just making sure that we don't ruminate. So making sure that what happens and then let it go instead of, you reflect and then you move on. But what that one horrible 5 minutes, let's reflect on it, then let it go and let's move on to the next.
I love that. Love that. And Joshua.
Yeah, I want folks to focus on positive self-talk. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemy and be what's in front of us that's stopping us from greatness.
Awesome.
That's
Thank
so
you,
true.
Josh.
All right, and we're
Getting
closing.
answer.
We're closing off the show with the Échale Ganas questions. You know what, Phil? Do you know what ganas is? Beth, do you know what ganas is, Katie? Guys, that is a religious, spiritual. There we go. Wearing the merch. I love that guy right there. That's where we're gonna go get some ribs at Buzz and Ned's. All right. Ganas is a spiritual word for all Hispanics. It doesn't matter if you're Venezuela, El Salvador, Honduras, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Cuba. We all tell that to our kids. You have a grandma yelling at her grandchild playing the violin and the mariachi. Échale ganas, mija. Or you've got that football mom or soccer mom yelling, échale ganas, mijo. Or when they get their report card home, échale ganas, mijo, which is not a good report card. It's how you say everything in the tone, right? It's a spirit. There is no equate. There is no equate in the English language because this is a term that's used from great-grandmother to daughter to grandchild. It's used, and people try to use it. Don't use it appropriately. So I want you to use these last questions. Con ganas, Phil. Con muchas ganas de tu corazón, amigo. So here we go. Lightning round. Now, let's not give dissertations, all right? It's a lightning round, guys, all right? Don't make me go, move on to the next one. The only one you're allowed to go quick or take your time is number 2. I've prefaced that one before. So here we go. Give advice to a new teacher, Phil.
Steal as much as you can from the teachers, but tweak it to make it your own and then share it back to them. Go.
Love it. Read a note, Phil, or an email or a text from a teacher or student that inspired you.
Student years later reached out on LinkedIn and asked, are you still making tacos in physics class? I missed you.
Love it. Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
Rosalie Kissman, 2nd grade teacher in New York, part of my educator membership. She's a rock star and giving joy to the world.
Love it. Also, name one person people should follow on social media.
Trisha D. Pasquale, that's at Mrs. D. Pasquale. She creates Passport Adventures, which are lesson plans around the world, and you can give to your elementary classes. She's a rock star.
Love it. What's one song that embodies your spirit as a person?
Make Yourself, Incubus. I'm building myself daily.
What is your favorite quote?
The Only Way is All the Way by Slipknot.
Love it. What is your favorite cheat food or sweet?
Buffalo chicken wings with some chunky blue cheese dressing.
Bro, you're telling the fat guy that. What is your favorite TV show or book?
Favorite book, I already said Happiness Advantage, Sean Achor. Love Positive Psych.
If people want the magic known as Phil, how can they get a hold of you, my man?
Just Google my delicious Polish last name and you'll find me at Phil Januszewski.
I guarantee you, it comes up real quick. There's not a lot of those cats right there. Joshua, give advice to a brand new teacher.
All right, don't be afraid to ask questions. You're not going to learn anything unless you seek the answer. And I know as a new teacher, that sometimes is very difficult.
Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher or student that inspired you.
All right, I just got this text from a teacher and it was from the new book. So it says, already hooked on the book. My brain is wired. The ideas in this book are incredible and reliable. I just don't know where to start. And so for me, that it actually touched someone and that's how they feel was a great way to end the day.
Eso. Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
Yes, Kristen Ani. She's in Texas, Salina. She's an elementary principal, someone I worked with, and she's just risen each day. She's amazing. So shout out to her.
Name one person people should follow on social media.
Charlie Peck, my co-author to the book. She's absolutely brilliant. And Charlie's spelled a little bit different. It's Charle.
What? What's one song that embodies you, your spirit as a person?
Man, this was hard. But my favorite band, Smashing Pumpkins, I just went with the classic 1979.
What's your favorite quote?
I never lose. I either win or I learn. That's Nelson Mandela.
What's your favorite cheat food or sweet?
Peanut M&Ms.
What's your favorite TV show or book?
I am obsessed with Severance on Apple TV right now, so I had to put that on.
How can people reach out to you, sir?
JoshStamper.com is probably the easiest way. Otherwise, on social media, it's Joshua_Stamper.
Love it. Katie, here we go. Give advice to a brand new teacher.
It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to apologize to kids when you make that mistake.
read a note, an email, a text from a teacher or a student that inspired you.
I just got an email from a former student who is becoming a 7th grade English teacher because of me. I know. We need you, girl.
Love it. Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
Coach Pat Terry at Oklahoma City Public Schools, 6th grade geography teacher, is amazing, doing amazing things.
Name one person people should follow on social media.
Gotta be Dr. Chris Culver, and great guy, doctor of kindness, and go find him, Dr. Chris Culver.
He was in the show, what, 3 weeks ago? Something like that, 4 weeks ago? He was in the show. Love it. Thank you for the recommendation. Okay. Your favorite quote?
When you know better, do better. That's Maya Angelou.
What's one song that embodies you as a person?
You got to shake it off. That's some T Swift. You know, get that negativity away.
What's your favorite cheap food or sweet?
Ice cream.
What's your favorite TV show or book?
Harry Potter. Always.
How can people get a hold of those cool blue glasses, or that I still have my mummy hand, the skeleton hand?
I hope you use it all the time.
I walk around the hallway with it.
Good.
I walk around the hallway with a skeleton hand.
Absolutely.
In your honor.
Yes, because you won. KatieKinder.com. You can find me on Twitter /X and on Instagram. And I look forward to hearing from you.
Love it. George, give advice to a brand new teacher.
Never take advice from another educator you don't want to be like.
Yes. Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher that inspired you.
All right, so I got this a couple of weeks ago. It was after a presentation for the IB educators in DMV and in Philadelphia. And main gist is this: thank you for such a wonderful presentation. Our membership was very appreciative of what you shared and how you shared it. We had an exit ticket, and one of the comments said, "This has been one of the best guest speakers I've ever seen in any educational presentation." And that meant a lot to me.
Oh, love it. Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
Well, in the past year, I have to give a big shout out to Principal Kafele. He's the GOAT. He's a person that I've been admiring for a long time, but recently, as I'm developing into a speaker, he's a person that I really listen to.
Name one person people should follow on social media.
So I got two. I got my two favorite educators, Yaritza Villalba and Coach Victor Hicks. And I'm going to shout out them on a tweet. So I hope that you guys follow them.
Got it. What's one song that embodies you, your spirit as a person?
I am a teacher, so it's My Philosophy by Boogie Down Productions.
What's your favorite quote?
Life can only be understood backwards, but you must live it forwards. It's by Soren, a philosopher.
What's your favorite cheat food or sweet?
Oh, that's easy. Flan.
Phil, you know what flan is?
Yes, sir.
Love it. All right. What's your favorite TV show or book?
So it's a tie. The Power Universe and The Sopranos.
There you go. How can people get some of that knowledge from you, George?
I'm at George's PBL, JRGE. He does PBL on all the platforms and at lifelonglearningdefined.com.
All right. And you also have a podcast. Tell them your podcast.
It's called the Lifelong Learning Defined Podcast. And I'm going to put the link in the chat so folks can subscribe.
Josh, tell them your podcast.
Well, technically I got two now, but Aspire to Lead's been going on for 7 years. And then I've got the Language of Behavior with Charlie Peck, which just launched.
Phil, do you have one?
No, sir. Just here for the ride, baby.
And Katie, you don't have one, right? Okay. Let's go. It's pirate time. And
Great, let's roll.
Panel, don't click off. Stay on after we sign off, all right? Stay real for two more minutes. Here we go. Pirate time. Give advice to a brand new teacher.
Lean into those marigolds. Find those people that bring the positivity and spend as much time as possible with them. Stay away from the walnuts. Stay away from those that are negative all the time.
Love it. Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher or student that inspired you.
This week, I had a student that recognized me in her senior night for dancing. And so it was just really neat, not because I was dancing, but because for my leadership. And she appreciated everything that I brought to her as a leader. So that was very special.
That is so awesome. Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
Is that what you said?
A current
Okay.
educator that inspires you.
Okay, awesome. A person that's actually my secretary. Her name is Madeline Moats, and she is amazing. She helps me do everything that I can do, and just also checks on me while being 24 years old and still like I don't. So never underestimate age does not define you as a leader for sure as well.
Name one person people should follow on social media.
Cheating a little bit here, but again, NASSP, follow your organizations because you'll find the people there that you want to follow. So go find organizations that you care deeply about, and then you'll find the people.
Name one song that embodies you, your spirit as a person.
Blue Skies by Ella Fitzgerald. So going old school a little bit there.
What's your favorite quote?
Favorite quote, perhaps this is the moment for which you were created. It's Esther 4:14.
What is your favorite cheat food or sweet?
I don't call it cheat food. It's what, but I eat it every, like at least 3 times a week, probably, or chicken wings.
What's your favorite TV show or book, ma'am?
Grey's Anatomy. Back on this week too, baby. Season 83. It's season 83.
And how can people get a hold of you?
Just find Beth Huff, BETHHOUF. I kept it that way in all the things. So just search that and you'll find me, or add a Gmail to it and you can email me.
So awesome panel. You guys just boom, drop that home run after home run. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Everybody, watch it on a rebroadcast. Send it to somebody else. We need this type of conversation, this type of love out there 100%. Susan, I see you. I forgot to mention to you. Susan, I see you right there. Thank you for being here. You know what? All single last episode that we've had here has been nothing but this. Knowledge after knowledge, but most importantly, con un corazón grandote, a big heart. And all of you do a fabulous job, and you're not alone. Remember, you're not alone. This is free PD. Every single last individual here, they will provide you with free PD if you reach out to them. They're here for you because they know the struggles that you're facing. You don't have to get a PO. You don't have to see if you have Title I money or 199 money. You don't have to go to your area superintendent to get signed off. All of this is for free. All of these podcasts are for free. And all you have to do is sit there and listen to it while you're working out, while you're walking, while you're cooking, whatever it might be, because we're all in it together. This is a beautiful journey, and we all need to hold hands. It doesn't matter what stage you're in, and we need you. Just like next week, we're going to need you for episode 44, where we're going to have Darren Pepper, Road to Awesome, Eric Francis, Dr. Mari Moreno, you might know her, Dr. Don Parker, and David James, because we're all going to be in North Carolina in a couple of weeks, getting some of that North Carolina food, but presenting at the North Carolina Middle School Conference. Thank you for being here. Panel, say goodbye to everybody.